exactly what you were saying. Nobody can tell you really what's wrong with you and what's going on. Only you know that. And it's your ability to connect with the body, to connect with the soul, to connect with sort of the emotions that are coming up when you think about like that gut pain, when you experience that gut pain. What were you just thinking about? What did you just do that may have been like self-sabotaging? And only you can really do that. And it really is a skill that you can learn, and it can amplify not only your health and wellness, but your entire life, and allow you to really live in alignment with your inner self and your physical self, because all of it's connected. So really have that mind, body, soul be in alignment and be working optimally so that your life can be as easy and as abundant as possible.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the show. I'm so excited for this week's guest. We have Alison Cohen on. She's a certified holistic health coach and intuitive life coach. She's also the founder of Transforme Coaching, where she helps her clients reconnect to their worth and break up with burnout, something you guys know I'm also very familiar with. So, Alison, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. When we first started following each other on Instagram, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much in common here. So I'm so excited to have you on and to kind of get talking and have people learn from your experience. So let's get started. Tell us a little bit about your story, your background, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, of course. So I am from New York, born and raised. I'm still there right now. I went to the University of Michigan, and that was really when I started sort of getting into holistic health and wellness, because my freshman year at college, I developed IBS and SIBO, which, if you're familiar with gut issues, a lot of times IBS is actually the underlying or the root cause of that is SIBO. So that was when I really started to dive into holistic health, because I started working with an applied kinesthesiologist, and he sort of viewed the person as a whole as opposed to just treating the issue. I'd gone to a couple of different gastroenterologists, and they couldn't find a problem. And a lot of times, I don't know if you know this, but when you have IBS, that is simply just a classification of a disorder when they don't really know what you have and they don't really know what to tell you. And so when I went to him, diagnosed me with SIBO, and actually had sort of the protocols to help get me on track. And that included me really focusing on my diet and restoring my gut. So I cut out all processed foods. I took out gluten, dairy, refined sugars, which I pretty much still stick to that diet now because it's what makes me feel my best. Working with supplements and meditation and breath work and stuff like that. And that was when I really was like woken up to the fact that your health is so important. And I became very passionate about it. I became the vice president of the gut health group at Michigan, which is something a lot of people don't know about me, but it was like, it's so interesting for me now to see all of the progress in that space, because when I was doing, when I first got into it, there was nobody, we couldn't get people to come to our meetings. No one would show up. There was a lot of, it was very stigmatized, and no one wanted to sort of discuss sort of like the not so pretty parts of it. And so it's amazing now to see the progress. But that was really when I started getting into holistic health. The thing was that because I felt so out of control of my body, and at the same time was restricting a lot of the foods, I sort of fell into disordered eating thoughts, behaviors. And I was obviously lucky enough that they were super severe, but they definitely were a big portion of my life. And it took up a lot of brain space. And that, I think, was when I really started getting a little bit more into the personal development space. And towards the end of college, my senior year, so that was during COVID, I was sort of struggling with the disordered eating. 2, I because of COVID, sort of lost a lot of the things that in the past I had been tying my worth to, which at the time I hadn't realized it, but things like I lost my job offer that I was supposed to have for graduation. I lost a lot of my social life because of COVID and just the particular sort of housing situation I was in. And I really, once I sort of lost all those things that I had been tying my worth to, I was like, I realized that something needed to change and that I wasn't actually as confident as I thought I was. I didn't have the self-worth that I thought I had. And at the time, I didn't even realize that it was a self-worth problem, but I just realized that I did not feel good about myself on a day-to-day basis. And I was feeling really lost, really confused. And so I ended up finding a spiritual coach through Instagram, actually. And and she completely changed my life. She sort of introduced me to the world of spirituality, to self-love, what that truly meant, to the idea of self-worth, to the abundance mindset, and really working with her created so much transformation in me. I became such a different person, and within a pretty short amount of time, like a lot of the limiting beliefs that I'd held, I didn't even think anymore. I really changed so much. And that was when I realized that that was sort of what I wanted to do, because it literally changed my life. And so right around that time, I also decided to get a certification in holistic health and holistic nutrition. But at the same time, I also got a job offer from a company in New York within private banking. And that job, I would say, was probably the exact job that the past version of me, like a year before I got it, had tried to manifest for
Yeah.
myself. And so when it came in, I was like, I have to take this. This is
Mhm.
literally my manifestation. This is meant for me. I got a lot of signs. I remember I think it was either the interview or I got the job acceptance on 3/3. So it was like a lot of angel numbers, all of that good stuff. I was like, there's just so many signs that I have to take this job. But I think deep down I knew it was going to be hard, and I knew that it was going to be a lot of lessons. And what I found working there was that environment, that external environment, was almost like a mirror to what my internal environment used to be before I did the healing work. So
Mm.
it was all of that pressure, that stress, that perfectionism, and being in that space led to two things. One was me burning out, because I was truly out of alignment with myself. And the second thing was that I realized that I no longer wanted that to be my story. I no longer wanted to play into the victim mindset. I no longer wanted to play into perfectionism, the all or nothing mindset, the people pleasing. Like that was no longer who I was. And I really believe that was sort of like the final test from the universe, or the final thing that it brought to me to show me what I truly wanted. And so I ended up leaving my job in private banking and then becoming a full-time coach. And I started off just sort of feeling it out and feeling into like holistic health, into intuitive wellness, because that's something I have really been able to utilize a lot, and it has been super beneficial to my personal growth journey, both within the wellness space and the mindset space. And then
Mm.
finally I sort of landed on the fact that burnout was truly the thing that I had a lot of experience in, and I felt it's sort of underrepresented right now, because I think there's actually a lot of stigma around it, because it's sort of viewed as something that's weak, when in actual, and so people are scared to talk about it. But in actuality, what I just really teach, and when I tell my clients, is that burnout just equals out of alignment. And it's the resistance that's created by being out of alignment with yourself that creates burnout. And so you can be working like a 9 to 5 at home, not crazy hours, but if it's not aligned to you, you're going to feel exhausted at the end of the day because of the resistance that's continuously showing up in your life. And so I really felt like this was a space that needed someone to tap into it and to really help people sort of own that, the fact that when they are out of alignment, that it's okay to sort of admit that that's the case and take action to help them get to a place where they are standing in their power, standing in their worth. And so far it's been amazing. So I'm so excited to continue to talk about it and to be here and to share sort of more of my experience.
I love it. It's beautiful. And it's insane the amount of similarities that I find in your story and in mine, which is, I also think, not a coincidence in all that you said about all the like limiting beliefs that we have that we need to let go of. Like a lot of women that have IBS, SIBO, have similarities and tendencies of like wanting reward from the outside. And as you said, now being a holistic health coach, it's like you see the person as a whole, right? And I wonder if, like, knowing what you know now, what would be, and especially what you went through, thank you so much for sharing with elimination diets and things. I had a similar experience where I kind of went totally the other way, where it was like almost went into a little bit of binging because it was like I restricted myself for so long and it was so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what you know now, let's say you were, somebody comes to you and has, yes, burnout and the out of alignment. I love the way you're saying that. We're definitely going to get into that. But looking at somebody as with gut health, and that might be like, okay, apparently I have to start an elimination diet. Like, how would you help somebody through that today?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I have found, and this is something really interesting actually, because I went on this diet. I have a friend who went on this diet. I have a couple of other women that I know who have went on this diet, and a lot of them have suffered with disordered eating. All of them actually have suffered with disordered eating thoughts because of it. And my brother recently went on it for his acne, and it's crazy how as a man who isn't as controlled by thoughts about food and what their body looks like and all of that, he just eats more, or it doesn't really affect him. And it really goes to show that a lot of it has to do with how as a woman we're conditioned, and a lot of that self-worth, and also exactly to your point, sort of how that a lot of times IBS or gut issues are sort of like the physical manifestation of sort of the worth wound. And so it's all connected. And a lot of people who have gut issues also have disordered eating, and vice versa. It's like there's a percentage, I think it's in like the 90 something percent of people who have gut issues also have disordered eating, which is really interesting. So it's all really connected. But I really do believe that eating no processed foods is like the best thing that you can do for yourself. And it's a really hard transition, especially as a woman, because all of a sudden you're not eating as much. All of a sudden, you start sort of seeing changes to your body, and that makes you sort of overthink it in one way or the other. And I mean, I really think that, and I've tried to go to the person I used to work with, or I haven't tried to, I have thought to go to, I haven't yet to do it, but to say that really the people if you're putting a woman on a diet, and a man as well, but especially I think women, just because of our culture, that is very restrictive and causes you to sort of be overly focused on what you're eating, what you're putting into your body, what your body looks like. You should be giving them a resource to work with a coach. Because I think that, again, the people who tend to have to go on these diets already are suffering with a lot of self-worth issues, typically, not always, but typically. And two, even if you aren't, the amount of fixation on it is not normal, and you need someone to support you and to vent to. I think that a lot of the problem is that you feel like you're the only one going through that experience. Especially that's how I felt, because at the time I didn't know anybody else who was going on like an elimination diet. I didn't know who to confide in if they had experienced that much weight loss. And I think you need someone to vent to, and someone to sort of not bounce ideas off of, but like be able to explain what's going on and have an outside view of if that's okay. So I really think that, it needs to be one, I think like gradually introducing stuff. But I do think that the elimination diet is beneficial, or I think no processed foods is really beneficial. And I think that people should be working with a coach is the truth. I think that it's much more typically than just the physical thing that's going on with gut issues. And so you really need to be working with someone who's not only going to support you with the physical, or you can work with someone who only supports you with the physical, but then in addition, having someone that supports you with the mental aspect of it, because it's really, really challenging. And a lot of times you kind of get in your head like, oh, I'll go on the elimination diet for like 2 weeks. That's what they always like say, like, oh, you start with like 2 weeks or a month or whatever. And it ends up being a really, really long journey. And I do think that you need sort of that emotional support through it. I don't think it's enough just to do it by yourself.
Yeah, I completely agree, especially because on social media, it's so much like there's this 2 week thing or 2 month protocol, and then like all your problems will be solved. And then every time you get at the end of that protocol, you're like, no, like I still have bloating. I still have like these different things. Like, why is it not solved? Is something wrong with me? And so I agree, like the one on one, having somebody that can help that mental, emotional support is so interesting or so important. And what is so interesting is that you said often it's a manifestation of living out of alignment, which for me was 100% what happened. Like I knew I was being given so many signs that I needed to let go of the previous company that I founded and that I needed to start something else. And it was like, when it's, especially I think in this situation, because it was my baby at the time, it was so difficult to let go. But talk to us about what are like some of the signs that you had knowing that you were going out of alignment, or maybe for somebody who's just thinking like, hey, I might actually be burnt out. What does that mean? What does that look like? What are some things I can look out for to be able to make a change?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, of course. So I say that there's usually there's three things really that I think or the things that give you signals that something may be out of alignment. Because again, burnout is out of alignment. And the first is your body. So what is going on with your body? Are you having like those physical symptoms of, for me, like I would every single Thursday, I would feel like really tired and out of it for a little bit. And then I would just like break out an eczema on my cheeks because
Oh
I was
my
just
gosh.
really exhausted, which was really interesting. So are you having, fatigue, exhaustion, breakouts, whether it be acne or eczema? Are you getting sick a lot because that's sort of your immune system is suppressed? Is your nervous system out of whack? Are you getting gut issues? Gut issues can 100% be a manifestation of burnout. Are you having hormonal imbalances? Again, that can be something. Tension in like the neck, the head. I had like shooting pains like up my shoulder, which
Mm.
started. I also always wore my bag on that shoulder, so I bet it had something to do with that as well. But it was also 100% just like the tension and the stress sort of
Yeah.
manifesting. So like tension there, headaches, sort of all those things that just like if your body doesn't feel good, it's because something's not in alignment. And so
Hmm.
that's really, if you're getting a lot of symptoms that are coming from your body, it's a warning sign that something's out of alignment. It may not be your job. It could be the relationship you're in. It could be, the workouts you're doing, but something's out of alignment and your body's trying to like scream that at you. And that's why it hurts, or that's why it doesn't
Mm.
feel good. So your body. And then the two others are your soul and then the universe. And because what happens is like your mind sort of takes all of the stimulus it's getting and creates thoughts, but sometimes it's hard to tell what thoughts are true, what thoughts are sort of like intrusive, so
Hmm.
a lot of times referring to either the body, the soul, or the universe, I think creates so much more clarity. And so the soul is really your intuition, and a lot of times that's sort of just like your gut feeling, like this isn't right for me, this doesn't feel good, I don't really feel safe, I don't feel like I can be my full authentic self here.